What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be discussing the ultimate guide to the upcoming blank/double game week 33. So if you guys have enjoyed this international break, had a couple of days off to focus on my real full-time job, but now that we're closely approaching the week before game week 31, and next week I kind of just want to focus more on game week 31's content, decided to create this video with a couple days to spare. So in this video, we'll be doing an ultimate guide to the fixtures in blank/double game week 33. As blank game week 30 concluded, so did the next round of the FA Cup, which will give us that insight, if you guys do recall, into the fixtures that will be happening and the fixtures that won't for the upcoming game week 33. So in terms of this video, I'll be discussing the fixtures in terms of the good, the bad, and the maybes, just kind of discussing which double game week teams I would be focusing on and which teams I would avoid. Then right at the end of the video, I'll be discussing captaincy, as I kind of just want to discuss a topic that might throw a little bit of a spanner in the works. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the first talking point we're going to be going over is going to be blank game week 33, as let's get the negatives out the way first so that we can focus on the doubles and the positives for the rest of the video. So in terms of blank game week 33, you guys would remember the FA Cup was going to kind of detail which teams blank and which teams double. So if you guys do recall from the video I created before the FA Cup did actually conclude, there were 3 teams that could potentially have had blanks. Those teams are actually going to be the opponents of Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. So it actually created an interesting scenario where if the team did progress in the FA Cup, that team wouldn't blank, but their opposition for game week 33 would. So for example, let's take the first team there. It's going to be Leeds, who had Chelsea at home. So that is now confirmed blank, as Chelsea did progress past Middlesbrough. So now Leeds unfortunately do blank in game week 33, and that has been confirmed. The next team we're going to talk about is going to be Wolves versus Man City. Man City winning against Southampton, and therefore that is a confirmed blank. And the final team, Aston Villa, who had Liverpool at home, Liverpool winning against Nottingham Forest, and therefore that blank has been confirmed. So the 3 teams that will be blanking in game week 33 will be Leeds, Wolves, and Aston Villa. Now, while this is actually quite an interesting talking point, is I don't know about your guys' teams, but my own team, I have a wide variety of these options just because I wildcarded in game week 26. But if you guys did prepare for blank game week 30, chances are you probably have some Leeds, Wolves, or Aston Villa assets. Now in terms of Wolves and Leeds, I can't really lie to you. I'm not really that disappointed with transferring out Raul Jimenez or Saiz or Kilman. In terms of Rafinha, unfortunately tested positive before game week 30, but his stats have actually looked quite strong, so I would hold on to him. And if he does return in game week 31 and 32, might be a little bit sad to transfer the Brazilian out. In terms of Aston Villa assets, haven't been that disappointing. I guess Luca Digne is the only one that has kind of caused me a little bit of heartache after choosing him over Matty Cash. I thought Coutinho's looked quite strong over the prior game weeks, hasn't looked as good as he has, but I guess the Aston Villa assets haven't been that bad. The other thing to note about the Aston Villa assets is that we should get some confirmation, hopefully shortly, that they could potentially double in game week 34 or 35, according to some people's predictions. So therefore I might not be as quick to transfer out my Villa assets, but in terms of Leeds and Wolves, I would definitely be getting rid as long as they don't have good fixtures. But now that we've spoken about the blank game weeks or the negatives of game week 33, I also want to talk to you guys about the mediocres, which is going to be the single game week options in game week 33. And the reason I want to talk about this is that I think this will be integral into your guys' chip strategy. We'll be discussing the free hit in game week 33 versus 36 later on next week. But in terms of the single game week players, I just want to draw some attention to some clubs. So the first team we're going to talk about is going to be Liverpool versus Man United. All of us pretty much own 2 or 3 Liverpool assets. A Trent and a Salah are basically essential in most teams, and they do face Man United at home. Now this fixture on paper might not be that strong, but if you guys do remember game week 9, I remember it quite vividly because I did captain Havertz over Mo Salah, and you guys know what happened. Mo Salah ends up getting a hat-trick and also 1 assist. Now that was the away game, this is going to be the home game, and with the current Premier League title being so close, I do think Liverpool should put on a good showing, and therefore even if I wasn't a free hit, I might want to include a Mo Salah. But this fixture is definitely not the best in the world on paper, and therefore if you guys want to go for some more double game week options, I might not be that against it. We then move on to Man City, who host Brighton at home, and this is definitely going to be a game that I would not avoid. Man City have a reputation at home of doing the job, and I think defensively and attacking wise, there could be some good assets in here. Unfortunately, like always with Man City, the rotation could be quite a headache, but I think if you guys do have some Man City assets, I wouldn't be taking them out in game week 33. Then going to the last team, Chelsea, who host Arsenal at home. Definitely probably the toughest game just on current form. United haven't looked that strong over the prior game weeks, but Arsenal definitely have improved. The only thing I will say about Arsenal though is that they do struggle against the better teams. Now Chelsea, will they prioritise kind of the top 4 or will they prioritise other competitions? They're facing Real Madrid in the Champions League, and if they do progress past them, I do think all eyes will be on that big ears trophy. But in terms of Arsenal at home, kind of a meh fixture here in my opinion. I do think the hardest out of these 3, but I might not be that against playing my Chelsea assets. But I'll be going more in depth into these single game week options or these single game week teams in the later video next week, where I do discuss my chip strategy updates. I just kind of wanted to highlight to you guys that there are 3 teams that have relatively good players, that have the fixtures that aren't that great, but also aren't that bad. But kind of talking about bad fixtures, let's go on to my double game week 33 avoids, or kind of teams that have bad fixtures that I probably wouldn't be bringing in unless you guys are quite maverick. But fortunately for double game week 33, it's only going to be one team there. It's going to be Brighton, who have Spurs away and Man City away as well. So I think you guys can understand, will probably agree with me in the comments down below, that I would be avoiding the Brighton assets, as from an attacking point of view, haven't been up to scratch these past couple game weeks, and definitely defensively against Spurs and Man City, 2 of the most informed teams in the Prem at the moment. I probably would avoid those goalkeepers and those defenders as well. I just think you guys can't even argue from a budget point of view that these assets are worth it, because you guys will see with some upcoming teams that from a budget point of view, there are better fixtures around. But watch now, Brighton assets, Trossard's going to score a double hat-trick in both these games, now that I've said they have bad fixtures, but I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say I would avoid them. Now we're going to go on to our kind of medium flavored maybe teams. Now these teams I've listed as maybe or medium just because they might be in bad form or their fixtures might not be as strong, and that's going to show in the first team, which is going to be Burnley, who have West Ham away and Southampton away as well. Now in terms of Burnley, I think they haven't been in great form. You guys will see that they're on the relegation zone, but they have to win games from now to the end of the season to get out of there, and I think against West Ham away and Southampton away, they might win one of these. Now unfortunately, the Burnley assets in terms of stats have not been producing that much. I think maybe a Nick Pope with these saves have been quite strong, but most of us will be looking at a Cornet or Weghorst, and simply from an attacking point of view, they haven't been that strong. Take into account West Ham away and Southampton away, both teams have been a little bit hit or miss defensively, but on their day can be quite strong, and that does worry me slightly about Burnley's form in game week 33. In terms of the players that I would maybe look at, I think Weghorst is probably the only one I'd potentially get, just because the other attackers this season have been dismal, and if he does have a double game week and also has a couple of doubles coming up, I might just bring in the Dutchman. The next team we're going to look at is going to be Southampton, who have Arsenal at home and Burnley away. Definitely a harder fixture in terms of Arsenal at home, and I have actually listed it as a red fixture just because Arsenal have really been good against teams that they should be beating. Defensively, have been quite secure. From an attacking point of view, they'll score at least 1 or 2. I probably would favour their defence over their attack, but I think this game is going to be a red fixture for me, but at least they have Burnley away, which I regard as a green one. Now Southampton have actually burned me in prior game weeks. I can't really remember if it was double game week 26 or 28, but the Southampton assets really didn't do the job and unfortunately didn't give me too many points. Now the other thing to take into account is that Southampton might be on the beach. What that kind of means is that they can't really progress further up the table. They won't get relegated, so where they are is where they are, and they might rotate just to get the full squad playing time. But still, I will just keep my Southampton assets, might not bring them in, but that's why I've kind of listed them as a maybe. The final team has a similar ethos. We've got Arsenal here, who have Southampton away and then Chelsea away. Chelsea away definitely for me is going to be a tough game. I mentioned with those single game week fixtures that Arsenal generally struggle against the better teams, and that's why I've listed it as a red game week. They do have Southampton away, like I mentioned with Burnley, a kind of hit or miss defensive side, but I do think with the form that Arsenal have against the lesser teams, they should be winning this game. Now, Percy, I already do have an Arsenal triple up. Would I bring an option in? Maybe. I think they even could be a captaincy consideration, but that might be a little bit more of a maverick call. I think Arsenal are kind of borderline because they have good form and the fixtures aren't too bad, but I just can't ignore that Chelsea away game. But now we've spoken about the bad and the meh, let's talk about the good fixtures. So the first team that has really good fixtures and probably the best fixtures in terms of double game week 33 is going to be those Leicester assets. They have Newcastle away and Everton away. The only thing that is hindering them right now is their European involvement. And why I'm saying that is that I do think they're prioritizing the European competition, and I think that Brendan Rodgers will be on the beach in the Prem just because they can't progress too high. So yes, they do have some lovely fixtures in terms of Newcastle and Everton away, two sides that are struggling. Newcastle have been a little bit more defensively assured than Everton, but in terms of rotation, who can we bring in that will play both? I think the one option that I'm potentially looking at is going to be a James Justin. When he was not injured in the prior seasons, he has played kind of every game, and I do think at that fullback position could provide some attacking and some defensive threat. Obviously, a Barnes and a Madison are options that you guys can look at, and what people have actually been mentioning is just wait for that European game that is pre-Game Week 33, see who gets subbed or rested, and then whoever gets rested or subbed, buy that player for double Game Week 33. So I think it's a perfectly fine strategy to actually do because I don't have a Harvey Barnes or Madison right now, so the fixtures aren't too great leading up to Game Week 33, so I can wait and be a little bit more patient. The next team to look at is going to be Newcastle, who have Leicester at home and Crystal Palace at home. The most important thing about these two games is that they are both home fixtures. Newcastle, a team as well that are fighting relegation, but they have improved a lot under Eddie Howe. I think defensively they look slightly stronger than the attack, and that's why Dubravka, Ashar, all these assets could be great value for money. Now I think out of these two games, one clean sheet is probably going to be had. I think it's probably more likely in the Crystal Palace game, but against Leicester at home, you kind of never know with Leicester prioritizing European football. In terms of the attack, I think Chris Wood looks like quite an attractive asset. Could also go for a Gucci, San Maxim, or maybe a Fraser if he tickles your fancy. But now going on to a team that offers some more premium assets, it's going to be Manchester United, who have Norwich at home and Liverpool away. The Liverpool away game I think is pretty bad, but I think the Norwich at home game is kind of the perfect solution for that. Now Norwich also fighting relegation, but we can never know by Game Week 33 if maybe they secure that relegation or something like that, and then they might put up a pretty bad team. United, a team that are also struggling for that top 4, might have a little bit of fight under their belly for that game, and I think they should be doing well considering this is at Old Trafford. So your Ronaldos, your Edison Cavani's, your Bruno Fernandes's, I would potentially look at them. From a defensive point of view, I don't really know if Norwich kind of go all out attack. If they need points, they could concede in that game, and that's why I do favour the attackers. A Jadon Sancho could be a nice differential at his price point, comes in cheaper than a Bruno or Ronaldo, and he could even be an outside captaincy consideration. But these would be the three teams that I'd kind of focus on. I think leading up to Game Week 33, not all of them have good fixtures, and that's why I might hold those transfers for as long as possible to give you guys as much time to make those transfer decisions. But now going on to our last talking point, and that's going to be captaincy. This is just because I actually looked at the game weeks and the fixtures and the players, and I honestly couldn't decide on a captain for blank/double Game Week 33. But I've actually highlighted 3 options that you guys could captain, put the armband, could be quite trustworthy, but I actually don't have much faith in any of them. So the first one is probably going to be the most popular option in Game Week 33. It's going to be Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes. Just remember, when I do list a play, you guys can go for any one of their teammates. I think they're equally, if not better, of an option, as such as the Bruno versus Ronaldo. But I've highlighted Ronaldo here just because I think he's more nailed to start both of them, and that Norwich at home game looks quite tasty. Now the nice thing about United is that they're actually out of all competitions besides the Prem, so won't be distracted by European football, won't be distracted by FA Cup football, and therefore the Prem is their only focus. Now as I mentioned previously, they are facing that top 4 clash, and therefore I would favour them to get some results from now to the end of the season, and I think that Norwich game is the perfect example of that. Now I guess you just have to hope that Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes starts, as there has been some odd rotation there, but I do still think that they'll be the most popular options for captaincy in Game Week 33. Now going to the more differential assets, the first one is going to be Harvey Barnes. As I mentioned, Leicester have lovely fixtures, if not the best double Game Week 33 fixtures. The only thing I worry about is that Leicester rotation. But as I mentioned previously, we can monitor that European game. If maybe Barnes gets subbed early, maybe a Madison misses out entirely, you guys could go for the captaincy because they should be fine for those next 2 games. But this definitely will be the more maverick opportunity for captaincy. I guess you have the fixtures there, but the rotation might be one of those cons. The final player to kind of highlight has mediocre fixtures, but definitely has the form and also the team. It's going to be Saka from Arsenal, a player that's on great form at the current moment. The only thing I do worry about is that he's not getting the most chances in the world, but he has been quite clinical. I think definitely that Southampton game will be the one to target for Arsenal assets, as against Chelsea they could always score, but I definitely think I favour them to maybe score in the Southampton game rather. I do favour Saka over someone like a Lacazette, extra point for a goal and also the extra clean sheet point, where Arsenal have been quite defensively assured. But as you guys can kind of see here, there's no Mo Salahs, no Kevin De Bruyne's, no Reece Jameses or Cancelos. These 3 options definitely aren't the most secure, but I guess it's the best we have for double Game Week 33. Comment down below who you guys would captain in this upcoming blank/double game week, and is there an option that you actually think will score more points than the 3 on screen? But this is basically wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Drop your comments down below if you guys have questions about the double and the blank Game Week 33, or maybe some assets that I actually have missed. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.